How's it going, folks? It's tier list time. Gonna attempt to rank all of the OU relevant Pokemon. I've played the metagame a lot. I might have a different take on what's good than others do. Also, you know, there's still a lot to explore. The meta is still very young. You know, there's changes happening every 2 seconds. Stuff has been banned a lot already. We've got no Iron Bundle, no Flutter Mane, etc. And terrestrialization is a hot topic. Terrestrialization is a big part of what's good and what's not right now. But it's not going to exist in the same form in the future, maybe. And new stuff's going to get added. We're going to be looking at a very different metagame in the future. But for now, I can attempt to rank the metagame as it stands in December of 2022. Let's get into it. The first OU relevant Pokemon here in alphabetical order is Amoongus, who we've been seeing a decent amount of. And I'm going to put Amoongus in the B+ tier. It's a decent general defensive Pokemon. It's got access to good utility things like Spore. Clear Smog is pretty nice in the metagame as well. It's reliable, it's solid. It was better in the Palafin meta, I think, because it actually handled that, but now Palafin's gone. But I still see it all the time, and it's pretty solid. The issue with it is it can get nuked through by strong stuff like, you know, the Ghosts, Dragapult can just smack it. You can Terra and just do double stab to get through it. Its defensive typing isn't great. It's like good in some ways, but it's also like Ice weak, Psychic weak. There's a lot of powerful offensive Pokemon right now that Amoongus doesn't deal with, but its ability to live a hit from most things and then threaten to do a crippling status move like Spore, Stun Spore, something like that, or even just remove their hazards and then regen back is strong and solid, and that's why you're seeing it a decent amount, I think. Abomasnow, I don't know, I've never really seen it. I'm not even sure if I should rank it. I doubt it's OU worthy. There's not too much like snow synergy enough to justify running it. I guess I'll chuck it in D tier because I don't think it's good. I think that if you run a snow synergy thing, you're running Slowking or Slowbro with Chilly Reception. You're not really running Abomasnow. It's kind of a waste of a Pokemon slot. It's a bit too vulnerable. Doesn't really do a lot defensively. Yeah, that's what I reckon. Here we have Annihilape, a quick S+ tier. Annihilape is insane. Annihilape is the king of the meta right now, I would say. Annihilape has a lot going for it. It's kind of going to take like an hour to explain it all. It has such things going for it. Ghost Fighting is incredible offensive and defensive typing, to be honest. It's pretty much perfect coverage. Ghost and Fighting hits like absolutely everything. Everything that, you know, think of what's the answer to Ghost? Normal and Dark, both of which are weak to Fighting. And it helps a lot that Rage Fist is its Ghost Stab option, which, you know, you only have to hit Annihilape once and it's 100 power Ghost attack, which is already stronger than Ghost attacks usually are. You know, the premier stab option is like Shadow Claw or Shadow Ball, only 70 or 80 power usually. All you got to do is hit Annihilape once, it has 100 power Ghost attack. That includes hitting it with U-turn or a random little smack. And then that's, you know, even that would be strong. It gets 50 power every time you hit it. And, you know, you kind of have to hit the thing to deal with it. So it's going to be charging up Rage Fist, which also, the fact that it has that scaling option outside of, you know, boosting up, like it's getting stronger without even boosting up, means that unaware Pokemon don't answer it because it has Taunt. It's an insane wall breaker because it taunts the walls that are trying to deal with it. Whirlwind it out. You know, boost up in its face like Dondozo or something. Ting-Lu, stuff like that. They don't even work. It can blow through something like big defensive Pokemon in the metagame, right? Like Garganical, Corviknight. They all take big hits from either Neutral Ghost or just Drain Punch. And the fact that it's going to keep charging its Rage Fist means that you don't beat it 1v1. Not only that, but terrestrialization is insane on this thing. This is a perfect example of terrestrialization being abused to the greatest extent because it's Ghost and Fighting type, which while very powerful offensively, is at least exploitable. Ghost is common in the metagame. Dragapult threatens it before it terastallizes. Goldengo threatens it. A lot of stuff threatens Annihilape, but its ability to change type and still keep Ghost fighting stab is insane. It can change to a defensive type, not only allowing it to charge Rage Fist on an incoming hit, give it mix-up potential. Is it going to Terra? Is it not? If you're threatening like a Shadow Ball or an electric move, you have that little mind game option. And yeah, it becoming a great... It doesn't need Terastallize for like a new coverage option. Its coverage is perfect already. So it just Terastallizes, becomes an insane defensive type, usually water, but even... I imagine even something like Steel, Fairy would be good. I'm sure there's different ways to run Annihilape. Terra just... I mean, water just happens to be the most common, the most generally good. But... And yet, it's like it's bulked up at that point. It has really good base special defense and good bulk. Good offensive stats. This Pokemon is kind of unanswerable. I don't really know how you handle this except with your own Annihilape or nuking through it before it can set up, which is not really like a reliable way to deal with something like this. Yeah, Annihilape's crazy. Annihilape, I definitely think something has to be done about it. I don't know what. It's hard to say whether the Pokemon is the problem or Terastallization is the problem. Because if it couldn't Terra, it's at least Ghost weak, Psychic weak, Fairy weak. Something like Iron Valiant smacks it. Something like, as I said, Dragapult and Goldengo just threaten it directly. So it's not as like insane of a win condition where like literally nothing can threaten it. But yeah, Annihilape is nuts. Armarouge, I'm not going to rank Arcanine. It doesn't really exist in the metagame. Armarouge I'll put in the B tier. I've seen it a bit. I haven't used it myself, but I've seen it. It's interesting. It has weak armor, I've seen. Take a hit and then become a really fast sweeper. Flash Fire has utility. Fire Psychic is solid offensive typing. I do feel like it's a bit frail, a bit slow. And I don't have too much trouble handling it in my experience when I'm up against it. It's also UU. Like, it's legal in UU. And even there, I don't feel too overwhelmed by it or anything. So I wouldn't say Armarouge is that insane. But it's definitely, like, viable and interesting and pretty good. I'll have to try it out myself. Avalugg, I'm going to put in the B tier. Avalugg is a Pokemon that got quite buffed by the existence of Terra, because this is a Pokemon with fantastic defensive stats, but you know, its drawback is its very poor defensive typing of Ice, but now it can change its type, which actually is really, really good on Avalugg. You can become something like Fairy Steel. I've seen Fighting Terra Avalugg as well, which actually gives you Stab Body Press. Yeah, Avalugg is an example of a great Terra Pokemon. It can be like almost impossible to kill this thing sometimes. Or a defensive core with Avalugg and Blissey, for example. Like it's kind of... If Avalugg becomes a new type, how the hell do you break that defensive core sometimes? It's pretty crazy. Quite a strong... But it is B tier because you do have to use the resource of Terra, which is often better elsewhere. Like there are better Terra abusers that are more immediately insane, such as Annihilape. Such as like Dragapult. Stuff like that, but yeah, you can't deny Avalugg got a bit of a glow up with the existence of Terastallize. Up next I've got Azumarill, which I'll put in B+. I think Azumarill is pretty good. I've seen like Choice Band and Belly Drum Azumarill, all kind of like just as threatening as it always has been. Solid Pokemon. Nothing too crazy, like the power level is increasing. Azumarill's not as crazy as it once was, but I think that it can still sweep teams. Aqua Jet is obviously good. It's got good typing. I think that building around Azumarill isn't too bad in the meta. And, you know, it helps that, like, Grimmsnarl exists with screens. That's a good, like, support teammate. It's pretty good. But it's not, like, metagame defining or crazy or anything. But I would put it in B+. I'm more threatened than it by, like, Armarouge, I think. So... Barraskewda, I'm going to put in the C tier. This thing can be really, really threatening and really crazy on rain teams, but I think it's very frail. There's a lot of prio at the moment. Dragonite is everywhere, which means, like, I think the Dragonite kind of destroys this simply through like, it's kind of free setup for Dragonite. A decent amount of common stuff walls it, but it's still powerful. I'll put, like, C tier means it's still, like, usable. But I feel like there's other stuff that's also threatening and crazy that also has more, like, either, like, priority moves or other stuff that's broken, like good defensive typing. I don't know. Barraskewda. Some of them do run Aqua Jet, and that's good. It's a lot of setup. You have to run Pelipper as well. I don't know. This might be underrated on my scale here. It might be like more like B or something. I have lost to it. It's good. Alright. We've got Baxcalibur, which I'll put in B+. It's good. It's threatening. It's something... I think all DD Pokemon benefit from Terra because, you know, changing to a different defensive type can allow you the turn of setup that you need to win, to get your DD. So that's always nice. You can also run like Choice Band on it. Choice Scarp I've seen. It's powerful, it's threatening, it's good. I like its offensive stab types for breaking through common walls. It can actually break through Corviknight. It's got good coverage too. I find it a little bit difficult. When I used it, I found it a bit difficult to set up with it. And I think that there are other DD mons that are a bit more reliable. In particular Dragonite, but yeah, you can't deny it's quite solid. B+ I would put it in. It's threatening, it can break through a lot of common stuff. It's always pretty good. And I might be overrating Blissey here, but I've put Blissey in B+ as well. It's one of the only, like, really reliable special walls in the metagame. It's got Stealth Rock on it. It lost a lot of utility moves. It lost a lot, but it's still Blissey. It still functions as it always has, as a special wall. I think just a solid special wall is quite nice in this metagame where there's a lot of special threats. That's a pretty simple analysis of the situation. But yeah, Blissey will never be too bad in competitive singles, will it? It's always got a place, right? It does suck that it doesn't have Wish or Aromatherapy. If it had Wish, I think it would be a lot better. Even Aromatherapy would be nice. Or Heal Bell to... like, maybe Stall would actually be pretty good. Maybe that would be bad for the metagame, I don't know. That would be some sort of hell on earth. In my experience, Blissey is, like, solid. So, B+. Up next, I've got... I don't know if I even rank Gastrodon. I'll chuck it in C out of respect, I suppose. Like, Gastrodon will always kind of have a place as the role of anti-water, but now that Palafin's gone, there's not really any water threats. It doesn't really have a place in the meta. It's a bit too weak. Yeah, perhaps not. Let's not even rank it. It's not really OU relevant at the moment, I think. I mean, I've said it got spikes in Stealth Rock now. That's actually a pretty big buff. And it has Storm Drain. Alright, I'll rank it in C. I think it's C. It has a place. Breloom, we've seen a bit of. I'm going to put it in B tier. You know, Spore Technician. It's got Mach Punch. There's a new item. I don't know if it's new or if it's Gen 8, forgive me. Loaded Dice that makes multi-hit moves hit a lot more times. That's really good with Bullet Seed and Technician. Prio's always nice in this meta. Mach Punch. Haven't used it, but when I'm up against it, it's pretty threatening, actually. But I do have to admit it's quite frail, and it says there's not too much of a threat in my experience. You can usually handle it. Maybe it deserves B+, I don't know. This might be one that I need more data on to evaluate it properly. Forgive me if I'm underrating Breloom. It could be higher. Maybe it's even to S tier. Who knows? Breloom's insane. Nah, I don't know. Alright, Brute Bonnet. This might go in the D tier. I was using this on day 1. When people didn't know what they were doing, it went crazy with in a Sun team with huge attack. I feel like maybe C tier. I don't even know though. I haven't seen it much, and when I have, it's been a sitting duck. It's too slow. It does have Spore, Sucker Punch, solid offensive typing, but it just doesn't do much. In my experience, this guy doesn't do a lot. It's a bit too slow for this metagame with all the hard hitters. It never really gets an opportunity to get going. It's a bit too... Yeah, I don't think it's very good. It's actually UU as well. In UU, I also am not having too many problems with it. I've been playing a bit of UU. Now, Ceruledge, I'll put in the B+ as well. I think that this thing is quite good. It has Fire Ghost typing, Flash Fire, good attack stat. Bitter Blade is a good move. I think that the fact that it's Ghost and it has Shadow Sneak puts it above Armarouge if we're comparing them, because I think that like Ghost Prio is actually quite valuable. Ghost Stab Prio. We've got Goldengo in the meta. We've got Dragapult in the meta. You can't go wrong with some good old Shadow Sneak. And it's also just a nice threat by itself. I think it gets like a normal Ghost Stab option as well that isn't Prio. So that's always good. Cetitan. I think that Cetitan isn't very good. I've seen some teams with like Slowbro or Slowking, Chili Reception plus Cetitan. And it's alright, but I haven't had much issue handling it. I think that if you compare it to Barraskewda, even though I'd said it wasn't as potent in the metagame as maybe it was in the past, I still think that it's more threatening than Cetitan is. The fact that Rain boosts water damage, and you can like Terra Water, lets you kind of nuke stuff. Cetitan, Hail doesn't boost ice damage. And an ice type threat like this, with big speed, it's handleable. It's not too crazy. There's a lot of prio. There's a lot of ways to deal with it. It doesn't feel like when this is in and Hail is up that you're in a lot of trouble, considering all the setup that requires. It's not that threatening. It's almost a waste of a Pokemon slot. I think if you're running Chili Reception, Baxcalibur is a good teammate. Actually gets a little bit of merit from the Hail, giving it defense. I don't know though. Even a simple Chien-Pao probably does a little bit more than a Baxcalibur. Forgive me if I'm disrespecting Baxcalibur though. Alright, here we are with an actual high-ranked Pokemon now. Chien-Pao. Where am I placing Chien-Pao? In the S tier. Chien-Pao is excellent. Chien-Pao is central. It is proven to be one of the most powerful offensive threats in the video game. It has good coverage, good offensive typing. 2 priority stab options. Insane speed. It's great with boots. It's great with Choice Band. Life Orb, I don't love, but you can't deny the threat that poses. I feel like you get too chipped, but who asked me? If I see a Life Orb Chien-Pao, I'm not going to treat it with disrespect. I'm going to be scared for my life. Chien-Pao is powerful in a very simple way. It has high attack, high speed, and it's got good moves. It's got Prio. I even think that Sacred Sword is good, like, utility a little bit. Break through the... There's some stuff, like, it's helped me. There's, like, Dondozo that curses up, and they Terra Steel. Now Sacred Sword ignores their boosts and kills them. That's always nice to have in the back pocket. And when Ghost type is so strong, Sucker Punch is always nice. Into the choice Goldengo and Dragapults, those are everywhere. Chien-Pao helps a lot against those. It's good into common things. It's a common thing itself because it's so damn strong. Who can deny that Chien-Pao is crazy? Uncontroversial placement of Chien-Pao. A+, I've got Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu is one of the greatest wall breakers in the format, with excellent offensive typing, insane offensive prowess, and yeah, with choice specs, it can even break through classical unkillable special walls like Blissey. You can even kill Blissey sometimes if it's chipped a little bit, or you know, you've made a path for victory. In Sun, this thing is a behemoth. It's a good Terra... I mean, every Pokemon is a good Terra Pokemon in a way, but this one is nice because it's got very exploitable offensive typing, but then it can change to a good defensive type and then keep its offensive stab. That's always a good way to Terra. If you have really, really good initial typing that is great for stab, then you become a good defensive type. That's nuts. So Chi-Yu gets a lot of that. Didn't even mention that for Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao also doesn't usually defensively Terra, but offensively it gets a lot out of like Terra Fighting or Terra Dark. Anyway, Chi-Yu, excellent. Not quite as like centralizing, I think, as Annihilape, obviously, but also Chien-Pao. Like, I wouldn't put it in the S tier, but I would say it's like a metagame staple. It's very good at the role of wall breaking. Up next, what have we got? Clodsire. Clodsire, I will put in the A tier. I think Clodsire is very solid. Water Absorb on a ground poison. That's just a good type profile there. It can Terra defensively if it needs to act as a important wall in a certain matchup. You can become a good Terra type to let you wall stuff. It's got great utility move pool. It's got heals, reliable heals. It's got hazards. I think it has Stealth Rock Spike and Toxic Spike. I like Yawn on it to force things out. It gets like simple Earthquake, Sludge Bomb, stab options. It's very good. It's a great defensive Pokemon. And, you know, it's just like, I think it's pretty balanced too. It's not like you would ever ban Clodsire. It's just like a good metagame presence that is obviously good and solid and reliable, but it's not like so crazy you can't kill it. It's got exploitable features, you know. So yeah, Clodsire solidly in the A tier, I think. Maybe you could argue A+. I wouldn't say so though. Up next we've got I guess I could rank Cloyster. I didn't think about it, but Cloyster I've seen a little bit. I'll give it the respect of the B tier. Shell Smash White Herb plus Terastallization. Cloyster is actually a Pokemon that gets a lot out of that. It can nuke through stuff and is much better at being able to live hits from things trying to check it than it once was because of Terra. Yeah, perhaps a little bit of an underexplored Pokemon, actually. Good partner with Grimmsnarl, potentially. Has access to Ice Shard. Prio's always good in the meta. Yeah, Cloyster has some things going for it. It's not that common, though. There are things a bit better at, you know, setup sweeping that are overshadowing it at the moment, but it has good qualities, for sure, I would say. Forgive the plane going overhead if you can hear that. That's... how convenient. How good is that? Up next, Corviknight. I suppose Chansey I'll put next to Blissey. They're similar. Although Blissey I would say is better because of boots. Blissey is better because of boots. I see it more often. I think it's better. Chansey. Eviolite is good, but boots are better. Corviknight. A+ tier. Solid as it always was, I think. Maybe slightly worse than was in Gen 8 because of higher power level, things can actually break through it a little bit. But body press feels great. It checks a lot of stuff. You can't go wrong with Defog, U-turn, like incredible utility, great defensive typing. yeah, just solid defensive Pokemon as it always was. Old reliable Corviknight. And here we have our second S+ tier Pokemon, Cyclizar. This may be a controversial placement, I don't know. Maybe not, I mean a lot of people want it banned. I think that similar to Annihilape, where the distinction I make for S+ is either that it's like so powerful that it can't really be checked by traditional means, or it restrains things so much that it can't, like... There's no straightforward answer to Annihilape. Cyclizar, similarly, generates free value with Shed Tail, and the best case scenario against Shed Tail is just to predict it and break their sub coming in. There are anti-sub mechanics. It's obviously a predictable Pokemon in a way where you know it's going to Shed Tail, probably, so you can preempt that. But the thing about it, Shed Tail is just, I think, a fundamentally great move, where even the worst case scenario for you is neutral or neutral to good, where you just get a free pivot with the combo of regen, allowing Cyclizar to come in with ease, do it again over and over. Like, it's kind of a toxic thing. Cyclizar can come in, free pivot. And the fact that it also has access to knockoff, I think, is very good. Because if you're trying to make some awkward play, preempting like a Shed Tail to a Dragonite or something, which like Shed Tail to Dragonite or Annihilape is a crazy idea, where you can sub up to this thing that is immediately offensively threatening. So if you see a Cyclizar, they have a free opportunity to Shed Tail, and they have like a strong teammate that gets a lot out of that free turn, you're in a very awkward position. You have to make a very awkward play to try and beat that and not die. So even if you do beat that and not die, all you've done is had a neutral exchange and they've lost nothing, right? But if they, the best case scenario for them is that they've got a free turn on a setup sweeper and they win instantly maybe, or maybe they force your awkward play and you knock them off. You've made progress. They've done some weird play like switch to something that preempts Dragonite, and then the ability to even threaten Shed Tail and then knock off instead is powerful. Even if Shed Tail is never bad, you can now have a 50-50 you can force and get free progress. I think Cyclizar is crazy. It's a crazy idea to be able to sub and batten on the same turn. The best thing you can do is force it, and all you get is a little bit of progress. They take 50, heal 33, take 50, heal 30. Like, they can do it so many times. You have to, like, guess right for a neutral exchange multiple times. It's tough. Cyclizar is a problem, I think. Anyway, yeah, that's why it's S+, because it's kind of like... it's just always good, I think. It just can't be bad. To Shed Tail. Dachsbun. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. Bad Pokemon name, I will say, but... I'll put it in the C tier. I think it's actually pretty good. It has Fairy typing and Wish Protect and Fire immunity. Good qualities. It's got good utility moves. I think it's actually a decent defensive Pokemon. I might be underrating it even, but... It's not used very often. It's a little bit maybe underused. Maybe it could be used a bit more, but... I feel it does struggle against a lot of common stuff. It might not be able to keep up in this powerful metagame. But keep an eye on Dachsbun. I think it's got good things going for it. I'll put it in the C tier for now. Out of semi-respect, it might even be higher than that. Up next, I'm going to rank Dondozo, who I think is a great Pokemon, and I'll put it in the A+ tier. Dondozo has Unaware, great defensive typing, great stats. It's probably the most solid check to, like, common stuff like even Dragonite because of Unaware, Chien-Pao because of Body Press and great type, like you just resist ice. I think most physical threats are going to be handleable by this. Unfortunately, it doesn't 1v1 Annihilate because of Taunt and Rage Fist. Because you can taunt them, they can't curse in your face, and then you can just charge up Rage Fist because they're forced to attack you. So, Unfortunately, you don't win that 1v1, but another thing about Dondozo is that not only is it a great check to a lot of stuff, it's also a win condition in itself with Curse and like Body Press or Liquidation and Rest Talk or just Rest plus coverage. And it gets a lot out of Terra type. Becoming Fairy or Steel is very good. If you're using it as a win condition, if you need that typing, can be really nice in some games. What is slightly bad about it is it doesn't have reliable recovery options. It only has Rest, which I think is actually nice design. Because if this had like Recover, I think that would be crazy. At least Rest forces it to be a bit more passive and a bit more exploitable. Like this would be kind of annoying to deal with it if it got reliable recovery. So you can force it to Rest, and then it's also vulnerable to like spikes and getting worn down in that way. But you can't deny its potency as a defensive wall and as a win condition, and you see it pretty commonly. I think it's very good. Up next in the... I guess I'll rank regular old Donphan. I can put that in like C tier. Because it does have Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, Knockoff, and Sturdy. So it can run... Unfortunately, Custap Berry doesn't exist actually in Gen 9. There was a bit where it was allowed, but then I guess they realized it wasn't legal on the cartridge, so they got rid of it. But this was much better when Custap Berry was in. Like, Sturdy Custap is actually pretty nice. But you can still run... I think it's okay. Like, it's a Rock Setter. It has Rapid Spin. It's not very good, though. It's outclassed by a lot of stuff. Yeah. Anyway. On to one of the kings of the metagame, Dragapult. Remaining powerful in the metagame. To nobody's surprise. Dragapult is extremely speedy. It has excellent offensive typing. It has excellent coverage. It has excellent move pool. It has an excellent ability Infiltrator, where there's a lot of sub going around with Cyclizar. There's a lot of screens. It completely ignores those two things, which is very strong in this metagame. It's a great user of Terra. It, either with Specs Ghost, you just nuke things. Ghost is a strong offensive type. This thing can get insane ghost damage. You can't go wrong with that. It's also... Terra also gives it access to physical ghost coverage for once. Before it had to run Shadow Force. It didn't actually have a good physical ghost attack. But now you can run like Dragon Dance Dragapult with Terra Blast and Terra Ghost to actually get double stab on a ghost attack, and you have a high attack stat. Then you've got Dragon Darts. Pretty damn good. That's pretty powerful. That's a great win condition. Especially because you're suggesting special. There's bluff potential there. They have to respond to like the threat of a Shadow Ball or a Draco Meteor, and then you can get a turn to set up. Suddenly they can't handle that. Yeah, solid Pokemon. And feels nice to have. Feels like one of the few things that's like consistent in this chaotic metagame where you actually have a bit of counterplay to the sub stuff. You can smack like a Dragonite before it terrors or something. You can generally hit stuff pretty solidly. You're fast as well, so you handle that. U-turn is always good. Yeah, Dragapult is a classic mon. And up next, speaking of the devil, it's Dragonite in the S+ tier. The power of Dragonite is kind of self-explanatory. Multiscale is an insane ability. And Boots was an insane buff to Dragonite last gen. So it's got multiscale with Boots, so it can't have its multiscale broken by rocks anymore. Multiscale plus DD, inherently powerful concept, obviously, ever since Gen 5. You have multiscale allowing you a free turn versus a lot of stuff. And what pushes Dragonite over the edge is Terra, allowing it to not only defensively be neutral to a lot of stuff by Terra typing. Dragon Flying is a very exploitable type. You can get smacked by a big Draco Meteor. An Ice attack will probably smack you. You're vulnerable to Ice Shard. Like, Dragonite's typing kept it in check in the past. Now, not only can it defensively Terra type to normal or other types to take hits way better, allowing it even further turns to set up for free, It doesn't care about rocks anymore. Also, it gets Stab Extreme Speed with Terra Normal. Or Stab Fire Punch or something to break through like Corviknight or whatever. Or Terra Steel to be insane defensively. I think it also gets Iron Head to destroy fairies. It has so many... It's got various different viable Terra type options, all of which are very strong. It's basically impossible to like reliably handle Dragonite at the moment. Because it's like, okay, it's Dragonite. In the past, you make a rock against it. Can't do that anymore. Let me go to like a defensive guy with coverage for Dragonite. That doesn't work anymore. Because at any point they could Terra type. You don't know what Terra type they have. Not only that, the concept of Stab Extreme Speed after a Dragon Dance is just like it goes first. It's very obvious to understand that that is powerful. It's also +2 prio. So even if you do break the Dragonite's multiscale, preventing it from setting up and winning the game instantly, it's still a threat because of the extreme speed. You can still just... don't even need to Dragon Dance for this to be really good. You just Terra Normal Extreme Speed. You become a freaking Arceus. Yeah, Dragonite is like... is problematic. And I do think that the problem is not Dragonite, but Terra. Terra pushes Dragonite over the edge. So I don't know, maybe Terra will still exist in the format in the future and we just have to ban stuff that can abuse it that hard. Like, if something uses Terra to become too broken, maybe the Pokemon has to be banned rather than banning the mechanic of Terra or restricting Terra somehow. But I don't know how they're going to handle that in the future. For now, Dragonite is kind of insane. At least, like, Dondozo can handle it, kinda, but then... you know, as I said, Dondozo can get worn down. And, you know, just answering Dragonite is, like, not really enough sometimes. It just poses such a threat at all times. It doesn't feel like you can really handle it properly. And it's really annoying when you have a Dragonite mirror, because both of you are threatening that big sweep. It's hard to know, like, when do I go off? What do I do? It's like an armistice or something. You both have the nuclear weapon, and it's like... you're at a stalemate. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway. Yeah, Dragonite's nuts. And these are the 3 Pokemon that I think are S+, where they're a level beyond the stuff that... like, Dragapult and Chien-Pao obviously very potent and powerful, but these guys are a level beyond because these guys, even though they're strong, they centralize the meta. They can at least, like, be answered in some ways. These guys kind of can't. Like, you can kill them, obviously. It's not like... I think the people... get the wrong idea where they say, oh, I've beaten Annihilape in the past, so Annihilape's fine. The problem is that beating Annihilape requires a lot. It's like a lot to ask. You have to have a response to it before Terra, a response to it after Terra. And even then it's hard because it's so bulky, it's so crazy. Same goes for Dragonite. Okay, how do you even have a response to Dragonite before Terra and after 3 different Terras? Is that even possible? You don't really have, like, a check to Dragonite or a counter to it. You have to, like, just kill it by being more offensively... what is the plan against Dragonite? There is none, honestly. It has too many varied options. Not only can it Terra to 3 different types, its coverage is so varied. It's such a crazy Pokemon. Anyway, enough about Dragonite. Let's talk about another Pokemon. Here we have, who's the next viable fella? Espathra. Another controversial pick. I'm going to put it in A+. I'm roughly ordering. I don't know if the order is exactly correct. It's rough. Yeah, Espathra has Calm Mind, Stored Power, and Speed Boost. Very powerful trio of things. It also has access to Dazzling Gleam for good coverage. Psychic Fairy is theoretically pretty perfect coverage. The problem with Espathra also lies in its ability to Terra, because it can also Terra Fighting, which would, you know, things that check this include, like, Iron Treads is pretty good, or Steel types, maybe stuff Terra Stealing to answer this and hit it after it Terra's Fairy. But then what if they're Terra Fighting with Terra Blast? Now they can smack Steel types. Very good win condition. Very popular at the moment. Good with screens. It might be S tier. I think it might be S tier, actually. Not quite S+, because I think that these guys are a bit beyond. But Espathra, it demands a lot from you. It demands a lot. It is kind of a central threat at the moment, and handling it is not easy because it has such a wide variety. Like, it can Terra to two different viable types, and you kind of need to have like a response to it before Terra and after Terra as well, because Psychic and Fairy and Fighting all have different resistances and weaknesses. So it's like, do I Sucker Punch it? It's just going to become Fairy and resist it. Do I Iron Head, or is it going to stay Psychic, predicting my Iron Head? It forces a lot of these weird guesses, and it's annoying in that way. Yeah, Espathra is very good. What do we got next? I don't know if I include Espeon. I've seen it, but I don't think it's very good. Fluttermane's banned. I'll include Forretress. I've used Forretress a lot. Unfortunately, it got very nerfed by the fact that Kustabberry doesn't exist. Because Forry with Kustabberry, I think, is actually very good. But Kustabberry is not in Gen 9, unfortunately. But still, I think that Forry getting Body Press was a huge buff. Forry is actually a pretty nice defensive Pokemon and a good hazard setter. It's got Spin, it's got Volt Switch. It has every kind of hazard, Stealth Rock, Spike, Toxic Spike. Well, not webs, but you know what I mean. I'll put it in the B tier out of respect. I think it outclasses Donphan for a very similar role. Body Press is what makes it, I think, a bit more useful. If it had Kustab, I might put it higher, but it doesn't. In a very unfortunate twist of fate. Kustab is an illegal item, but hey. Florry, fun, good. What do we got next? Regular Gallade, do I dare rank? I've seen it a bit. I don't know how to evaluate it, though. I feel like it's just bad. I don't know why I've seen it. Garchomp. I think I'll put Garchomp in the A+ tier. Garchomp has been a common lead. It has Rough Skin, and people are running the combo of Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet for big chip on contact moves. I think what I like about Garchomp is it's a hazard setter, and it has spikes now, but it also has good value in the mid game because of its Rough Skin and Rocky Helm. It's an annoying presence because, you know, the enemy simply doing a U-turn for a free pivot is now a little bit dangerous. They're going to chip like a third of their health almost. That's pretty bad. Like Rocky Helm Rough Skin is quite a threat, and Garchomp's very bulky too. It's got good typing. It's got a Dragon Tail, helps to like shuffle stuff, and you can even, I like Terra Fairy on Garchomp to bait a Dragon type to hit you, and then you can hit them and force them out. Sometimes that beats Dragonite. It requires a lot of commitment from you, but at least it's something against Dragonite. In some games, that's useful. Yeah, I quite like Garchomp. I think it's got a lot more set variety than people think as well. You can run coverage on it. It's got a very good move pool, always has. I'm sure other sets are good, like even using it as a sweeper is probably good, maybe. Although it's a bit hard to break the common defensive Pokemon in this metagame with Garchomp, but as a hazard setter with Rough Skin and Rocky Helm, I think it's quite solid. What have we got next? We've got a Garganical, which I'm also going to put in the A+ tier. This thing has proven a very good defensive Pokemon. I probably would put it above Dondozo and Garchomp if it was up to me. Salt Cure is strong. It's a form of status that doesn't care about Taunt. It owns Steel types, like Steel types are quite common too. A lot of stuff is becoming Terra Steel in this metagame. Corviknight obviously is very good. And it's good versus water types like Dondozo. Annihilape that Terra Waters is now like on a clock because of Salt Cure. And then it also has Iron Defense Body Press. It's a good thing to Terra itself. It has reliable recovery. It has a lot of great qualities for a defensive Pokemon. It also has immunity to status, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, that's good. And it's weak. It's resistant to Ghost, which is really good. Ghost is one of the most popular and common offensive types. Ghost usually is able to nuke through most defensive walls, not Garganical though. And then Garganacl can come in against a Ghost hit and start making a bit of progress. Salt Cure something. Garganacl, honestly, Donkey Kong inside of Pyramid, it's really annoying. I kind of hate it, but can't deny how good it is. You see it commonly. Up next, everybody's favorite financial genius and a cheese string Pokemon, Gholdengo, is in the S tier, with one of the most powerful abilities Game Freak has ever created, good as gold, not only making immune to status effects, but all status moves, including Defog, including Leech Seed, if that exists at all, including everything that aren't hazards, basically. Gholdengo is immune to it all. You cannot break through his solid gold exterior. It is impenetrable. The ability to block Defog is a new and very powerful idea. It is allowing offense to go nuts. And Gholdengo, even without that ability, not only is it immune to both Rapid Spin and the new move Mortal Spin, which is a poison type Rapid Spin, and Defog, so there's no way to remove hazards in the face of a Gholdengo, except for Tidy Up from Mouse Pokemon. That's the only way. And Defog from Holicha with Molebreaker. Even not, including that incredible utility. It is an offensive powerhouse with an incredible, I think, 133 special attack and excellent offensive typing with Steel Ghost. Offensive and defensive. Like, Steel Ghost is great offensively and defensively. Fairies are everywhere. You love having the big Make It Rain, which is an insane ability, by the way. Sorry, move. 120 power, Steel type, 100 accuracy, only lowers 1 speed special attack stage. That's so strong. This thing is good with a Scarf, it's good with a Balloon, it's good with Specs, it's good with, Boots, Lefties, and Nasty Plot. It has Nasty Plot, it has great coverage, it's got Psyshock, Thunderbolt, Memento, Trick with Choice Scarf. It has excellent everything. Move pool, ability, utility, offensive power. This thing is like an auto-include on pretty much any offensive team. It's like one of the most common Pokemon in the metagame. It's a no-brainer to put this in S tier. Not quite S+, because you can form a plan around it. You can actually kill it. But you can't deny how central this Pokemon is and how insane it is. It's S tier. Do I put it above Dragapult? I don't think so. But I put it above Chien-Pao, as crazy as that sounds. We all thought Chien-Pao was the best in the game when the game first dropped, and it is excellent. But I think Gholdengo, with its utility, with how much the meta is centering around Gholdengo, with how common it is, with how much it provides to a team, I'm putting Gholdengo above Chien-Pao and Espathra. Ladies and gentlemen. Up next, we have everybody's favorite pick, which is, of course, Great Tusk, which I'm going to put as well in the S tier. Great Tusk has proven excellent. It has stats. It's like the only good knockoff user almost. It's one of the only good knockoff users. Not much gets knockoff anymore. And that makes it great at, it has Rapid Spin. It also threatens Gholdengo. Good combination of things. Gholdengo can't really come in and take knockoff. I think it's a good Assault Vest user. It appreciates the extra bulk, especially defensively. And then, Spin is always good. It has great Stab. Like, it's an offensive threat, a defensive threat. It's so fast for what it is. Like, randomly, it's 300 speed max. That's pretty fast for how defensively strong this thing is. How much attack it has. This thing can do a wide variety of things. It can be an offensive sweeper. It can be a defensive backbone. I love Great Tusk. I think it's excellent. Up next, we have Grimmsnarl, who I'm going to put in the S tier. Grimmsnarl got a buff with access to Parting Shot, which is insane. Parting Shot with priority. You can priority pivot out and lower their stats, which in conjunction with Reflect and Light Screen, both with priority on them, is pretty damn powerful, if you ask me. This thing is pretty crazy. It also has Taunt to deny rocks. Spirit Break has a strong fairy attack. This thing is an insane enabler for big offensive behemoths like, Annihilape, Dragonite, Espathra, those kinds of guys. Anything that can set up and threaten to sweep. is going to love Grimmsnarl as a teammate. And how do you really handle Grimmsnarl? Like, it's a bit... I mean, while it's sitting there setting its screens, it's a bit of a sitting duck. You can, like, knock it off, hit it, do stuff, and then maybe answer what it comes into. It's slightly, like, passive in that way, but you can't deny how powerful the idea of priority parting shot plus screens is, and how this thing enables offense. This thing is crazy. I would put it in S tier. What do we got next, folks? I don't know how good Gyarados is. Haven't really seen it. Hatterene, on the other hand, I have seen. And this might be overrating Hatterene. But I'm going to put it in B+. I think that Magic Bounce is very good in the metagame. The safety net against hazards. Honestly, Psychic Fairy, solid defensive typing for the metagame too. It's a good special wall. It can even be a win condition with Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Psyshock, like that can sweep everything. I think I'm seeing it rise as well. I've seen this more commonly now. I think it's very nice to have that backbone against hazards, while also doing other things. Like it unlike Espeon, it provides that backbone against hazards, but it's also sturdy enough to take hits. It has great utility moves like Nuzzle. It's a solid Assault Vest user. It's a solid win condition. It's a solid also Trick Room user. Like, you can provide the utility of blocking hazards while also providing Trick Room for your team. That's a no-brainer if you're a Trick Room team. That one Pokemon is providing a lot for you. Hatterene, I think, is very good. It might even be A tier. I don't know. But B+, I'll put it for now. It's actually UU, where it doesn't feel broken in UU either, but I guess its utility and what it provides makes it viable in OU as well. What do we got next? Hippo. I guess I'll rank Hawlucha. I'll chuck it in B tier. I think that the terrain setup sets are not very good. It's a bit too much setup, and I think that other offensive threats just do more with less setup required, with less teammate support required. And it's more handleable than it once was, with like also the terrain setters are not very good. If the Tapus were still here, but they're not. The terrain setters are quite average, so I don't love that set. But there is a utility Hawlucha set with Mold Breaker and Defog that is like the one thing that can defog against Goldango. Okay, I'm putting it in C tier, to be honest. The thing about that is that, yeah, you can defog against Goldango, but Goldango just threatens to smack you. You can't really take a Shadow Ball very well. What if they have Thunderbolt or Psychic, which is common on them? Like, maybe if it could actually tank hits from Goldango, but it can't really, so I don't love that set. It's kind of just a funny idea that it's the one thing that can defog against Goldango, but even allowing Goldango in freely is bad for you probably. Like, yeah, you can't really like go into. Yeah, it's. I think it's bad. Up next, Hippo. I feel Hippo is B+. Even though it's not that common. I haven't seen it that much. I haven't used it myself either. But like, just thinking about it, it's the one thing that can actually break multiscale nicely. It can create Sandstorm. Sand chipping stuff is actually strong in this metagame. Also, it's just a solidly strong defensive wall with good moves. It's got Stealth Rock. It actually has Whirlwind, which is quite nice in this metagame, full of boost sweepers. I know that you can't Whirlwind out Annihilape, but you can Whirlwind out Dragonite. It actually would be a pretty nice Dragonite check, right? It has Rocky Helm you can run on it. It makes Sand, and it has Whirlwind. If you want, you can run Ice Fang. I probably wouldn't advise that, but I feel like Hippo is pretty good. There's no Houndstone anymore, no Sand synergy really, but just the ability to chip Dragonite, I think, makes this quite good. I'm sure it's like a solid. It can probably take a hit for us a lot of stuff. It has access to like Yawn. It's a Rock Setter. Helm makes it like a progress maker. Sand Chip is also quite, like, a lot of stuff in this metagame gets Sand Chipped, right? Denies Leftovers heal from Espathra, maybe. You can probably take a hit and Whirlwind it out. That's actually like a good check to that. Before it snowballs out of control, it's not powerful enough to really break through Hippo. Hippo has good defenses. I like the Hippo. Maybe I'll try it myself even. What do we got? Houndstone's banned from competitive play. As is Iron Bundle. I guess I'll put in DD in the C tier out of semi-respect to acknowledge Psychic Terrain. But I've tried it and I don't love it. Slightly underwhelming. You'd think Psychic Terrain would have a lot of utility in this meta full of Prio, but this thing feels like a waste of a slot. A little bit because it's a bit weak. Iron Hands, I will actually put in the A+ tier. It's a slightly awkward Pokemon typing-wise, but its offensive capability. It has access to Volt Switch for pivoting. It's great on Trick Room teams. It always poses some kind of a threat. I believe it also gets Bulk Up, so it threatens to win games that way with Drain Punch Bulk Up. Like, that's really good. It's bulky. It can be Assault Vest. It can be, you know, just Bulk Up or utility, whatever. Iron Hands is good. It's a threat. You're going to be in trouble if you see this thing. I'll put it in the A+ tier. Seen it quite a lot. Always have a little bit of trouble against it. It's always kind of hard to deal with. Up next, I will rank Iron Jugulus, who I'm going to just put in the D tier. I feel like this thing doesn't do much. It's not very powerful. It's outclassed by other Pokemon. I'm not even sure what it... I've seen it, but it always just dies before it can do anything in my experience. Maybe I'm underrating it. Forgive me if I'm underrating Iron Jugulus. If there's any Iron Jugulus fans in the audience, I do apologize. I'm sorry. I'd need Iron Jugulus, though, to prove itself. Iron Jugulus, you gotta... I also hate that name. What is Jugulus? The jugular vein? Juggalo? I don't like this. Iron Moth, on the other hand, I think... A+ or A, I'm not sure. I'll put it in A. I feel like it's not quite as insane as these guys, but Iron Moth is... it's powerful. It's speedy. It has excellent offensive typing. It gets a lot out of Terra. You know, anything with great offensive typing gets a lot out of Terra, because it can become a good defensive type and keep its great stab. So, you love that. A poison type is nice because it can actually threaten fairies. Stuff randomly Terra typing to fairy is common. Having something that threatens fairies is always good. The agility set, I think, is good. It can have energy booster with the item. That's good. Yeah, just solid Pokemon. There's a chance I'm underrating it even. It could even be S tier. Nah. I wouldn't say S tier, but it could be A+. If you think I'm underrating it, let me know, folks. Please let me know. Down below. Iron... What's this thing called again? Iron... Jugulus. Number 2. Iron Thorns. That's the one. I guess because it has thorns on it. Robot Tyranitar. I feel this thing is quite underwhelming and outclassed by other Dragon Dancers / even rock types. I don't find it very threatening when I'm up against it, and I feel like if you're using it, it's probably a waste of a slot, to be honest. I don't love its typing. We'll see if it's any good in UU. It's actually UU, so might be good there. In my experience, this guy is not that much of a threat, but I could be totally wrong. I could be a complete bozo on this one, and Iron Thorns is actually crazy. Any Iron Thorns enjoyers in the audience, let me know. Iron Thorns fans, please show your support. Now here we've got Iron Treads, who I'm going to put in the S tier. Iron Treads I think is excellent. Fantastic stats, fantastic typing. Pretty much the same utility options as Great Tusk with knockoff and spin. Actually a very powerful knockoff user. I love Assault Vest Iron Treads. I like I mean, it gets Volt Switch as well, randomly. I don't know why Iron Treads gets Volt Switch. I guess because it's a robot. Having a pivot move on this is nice. Yeah, great Pokemon all around. Great defensive backbone for many teams. It can even be a threat. You can put an energy booster on this thing. It has great offensive stats. It's kind of crazy. It's like a great defensive Pokemon that's also super fast. I think it's nutty. And you really appreciate a steel type like this in the world of fairies. There's a lot of fairies, a lot of stuff. Terra type's fairy. I like to run Iron Head on it for that outcome, for that situation. It actually, if Espathra is fairy Espathra, this thing handles it very well. If it's Assault Vest, you can Iron Head them after they Terra, and even before they Terra, you can knock off. You've got options for both situations, and they can't threaten you that hard with Stored Power, Dazzling Gleam. If they're fighting, though, it's a different story, but you can cross that bridge when you come to it, of course. Anyway, next Pokemon, Iron Valiant. I'm going to put Iron Valiant in the A+ tier. I think Iron Valiant is a powerful threat. It has good offensive typing. It has access to Energy Booster. It's one of the best users of Energy Booster. This thing getting speed is very good off Energy Booster. It threatens a lot of stuff with its wide coverage. It has Fighting Fairy, Electric Shadow Ball / Shadow Sneak. It has boosting moves. It's a very hard thing to respond to when it comes in because it could have such a wide array of options. It could be special, physical, mixed, booster set, prio set, this coverage, that coverage. It's one of those Pokemon that makes you guess a lot. And I think that that's inherently strong. Wide array of options, solid stats, typing, everything. Iron Valiant, solid. Probably above these fellas. If I had to quickly, I'll put above Garchomp, below Dondozo. Let's go with that. What do we got up next? We have, I suppose I'll rank Kilowattrel in the, it's not even really that relevant to the metagame, but I'll chuck it in D tier. I feel it's a bit slow and lacks potency at what it does. But it's got Volt Absorb, I guess. It's got T-Wave. It's got limited coverage options too. It's cool though. I like its visual design. But it's also in UU, and it's pretty good there. King Gambit. King Gambit I'm going to put in the A tier. I think King Gambit's very good. It's got good offensive typing. It's got a great ability. I might even put it in the A+, actually, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit. I'll put it here. Good offensive typing. Good ability. Gains attack every time your allies die, which actually adds up. It can be a crazy threat at the end of a game. Also, Sucker Punch. Excellent option. Even Defiant, if you don't want to run Supreme Overlord, the attack buff, even that's the most common option. Defiant can be good. Anti-defog technology. Imagine a Corviknight defogging into this, and now you have to deal with a Swords Danced up King Gambit. That's a problem. You can Terra defensively, of course. Even offensively, becoming Dark type is crazy. Yeah, King Gambit, very good. Very threatening. Good wall breaker, I think. Excellent Pokemon. What do we got next? Komala is in the S+ tier. Just kidding, of course. Although it's an Australian Pokemon. Is Crocodile relevant? I don't know. Low Kicks. Low Kicks I will give the respect of the B tier. I think that Low Kicks with Tinted Lens is a powerful idea. I'm sure it can wall break. I'm sure it like big stab U-turn that can't be resisted. First impression that can't be resisted. Powerful idea. I do think that it is a bit slow, a bit exploitable. I tried it and I didn't have a lot of success with it, but it's a threat. It's like its stats aren't that good compared to other stuff, but just Tinted Lens makes it good because it's good, just neutral damage versus anything. That can't be bad. But yeah, it does struggle a little bit. Its typing isn't very good defensively. It's not really bulky enough to get a lot of like a defensive Terra type. You usually want Terra Stab for the damage. But yeah, good offensive typing, good ability, good wall breaking potential. We might see low kicks rise in the ranks. For now, I'm putting B tier based on my experience both using it and against it. I don't find it that crazy where like I can't handle it, but it's got good qualities to it for sure. Up next, we have... What do we got? Am I ranking a Lycanroc? I don't think so. Magnezone? I have seen a little bit. I don't know how to evaluate such a thing, though. I feel like the Magnet Pull has limited utility in such a metagame. There is stuff Terra Stealing, and you can, like, set up against it maybe, but it's niche, I think. Such a niche idea. I don't know if I'm going to rank it. I can't evaluate that. I'm actually going to put Masquerain in the B tier. And the reason for that, people use it as a sticky web setter. It's like the only thing that gets it. And just that alone, I think, can create team styles. Sticky web, I think, is powerful. So it's not... It also has, like, other stuff. It's got Quiver Dance and, like, coverage options. I think it gets Defog. Like, it's alright. And it has Intimidate, which is actually decent utility. It's obviously, like, bad stat-wise, but just having access to Sticky Web and having a little bit more utility outside of that makes it see a little bit of usage, so I'll give it the respect of the B tier. It's kind of funny that this is B tier. I'm sure this will get completely outclassed by future Sticky Web guys that come back, like Shuckle or even Smeargle or stuff like that, but for now, this is the best you've got. This is the best Sticky Webber in the game. There's like Spidops. I think he's bad. Masquerain can Sticky Web and do like one or two more things, so therefore it's the best. Kind of funny. I will next rank Mousehold in the C tier. This thing seemed pretty good when the meta first dropped. The concept of Tidy Up is very powerful. You remove hazards and Dragon Dance, and then it has its 10-hit move. Kind of crazy, but the problem is that everything in the world runs Rocky Helmet. Like, most teams have Rocky Helmet on them, and if you Rocky Helmet, this thing, it just kills itself with all the multi-hits. So maybe you need to run protective pads on it, but then that feels like a waste of an item slot. It is not as offensively powerful and threatening as it seems. There's ways to play around it, I think, pretty cleanly. Especially if it's not running protective pads. Yeah. I mean, I think Corviknight can even just take the hit and body press it. In that situation, maybe the Terra Ghost, but then you just go to like a Ghost type. I don't know. I feel like I did lose to this recently. I got totally owned by one, and it was a sad moment for me. But I feel like Mousehold is not like a metagame Titan or anything. I'll put it like C tier means it's usable-ish. Maybe it's even B tier. I don't know. I would say it's not very good. What do we got next? Meowscarada. I will put in the B+ tier. I think the Meowscarada, it has... People thought that this would be better than it ended up being, I think, because it has Protean and seemingly a good move pool. I think what I don't like about it is it kind of sucks into Corviknight, but you can at least knock off and then U-turn out. It's a solid knockoff user. I've tried it myself. I feel like it's a little bit... don't know, too slow, or it somehow doesn't fit in the meta. I feel like I don't get a lot out of Meowscarada, but it's still solid. It like Protean's great. Knockoff is good, like nothing too much. Gets knockoff. And then Flower Trick is really nice to nuke through like a Dondozo, break through its boosts, even an Annihilape after it Terra Waters. Meowscarada is one of the few things that can actually like handle that. Like, that's a good plan against Annihilape. Even though it's a lot to ask for, you can force the Annihilape to Terra and then Meowscarada kills it. That's at least a plan. And you give credit to Meowscarada for having merit in that regard against Annihilape. I'll put it above Amoongus, let's say, above Blissey even. The Meow. Not bad. Not too bad. What have we got next? We have Mimikyu, will I rank? It has Trick Room. I'll chuck Mimikyu in the C tier. Trick Room, Swords Dance, Shadow Sneak, good offensive typing. Probably pretty good. Haven't seen it much. I've seen it on Trick Room squads. It's pretty good there. It may rise in the ranks. Forgive the limited analysis of Mimikyu. Haven't got much experience seeing it or anything, but I feel like it's got good qualities as well. What do we got next? Just trying to think if any of these are anything. Murkrow is actually a metagame Titan. Orthworm. Orthworm, I feel like I'll put it in B+. As a Shedtail user, it's slightly overshadowed by Cyclizar, who, with the combo of regen, is obviously nuts, but Orthworm has a lot going for it. It has a great ability, Earth Eater. Steel type, immune to ground, powerful. It has hazards. It's a good defensive wall. It has body press and Shedtail. That's a lot of good stuff. It's a little bit pressured in the metagame. It struggles to... I think it's kind of like a weird Pokemon to have Shedtail on because it kind of needs to take damage. Shedtail's perfect on Cyclizar because it's fast and has regen. It can just pivot a million times. On Orthworm, it's slightly harder to actually do stuff with the Shedtail. But Shedtail's obviously still a strong move. It also passes more health than Cyclizar does. That's good. So there you go. Orthworm. B+. What next? There's a lot of Pokemon here. Palafin has been banned from competitive play. I'll rank Tauros Fire. I don't know how to rank Tauros Water, but Tauros Fire I will give the respect of the B tier. I used it on my Sun team, which is now obviously outdated, but I liked it because it helps against Chien-Pao with Intimidate. It's a solid Scarf user. It's quite threatening, actually. And yeah, in Tim with its typing, it's got some good qualities. There's nothing much special about it, though. It's maybe a bit weak for the meta. But I think it's got some good qualities. Watered Paldea I haven't really used. I think this Tauros is just fighting type. Pawmot, I don't know to put it in A+ or A. Pawmot can revive an ally. Very powerful concept. Actually legal in UU, if you can believe it. This thing's nuts in UU. But I tried it in OU a little bit. I admittedly haven't played much the past few days while this has been added. I played on the first day. But yeah, the concept of reviving an ally is obviously strong. Especially in this metagame where, you only revive them on 50%. But something like, I don't know, Dragapult getting revived. Chien-Pao getting revived. Goldie getting revived. Like, stuff that can just... doesn't really need health to just immediately threaten something. Like, that's kind of crazy. Dragapult can go off with its specs, die, and then come back to life, and you have a specs Dragapult again. That's kind of nuts. I think people are using it with, like, Trick Room teams. That other guy, though, Drabska, is that one, but... yeah, Pawmot, I guess I'll put it in A+, now that I think about it. It's also solid itself. Volt Absorb is good utility. It's got good moves. Like Double Shock is a good move. Big electric type attack. It's got decent offensive stats. Okay speed. The ability to actually threaten water and steel types is obviously good in this metagame. Has Volt Switch. And then on top of that, it can resurrect allies. Yeah, that's good. That's strong. Obviously. I wonder... in my opinion, I feel like Revival Blessing isn't as crazy as I thought it would be when I saw it. But it's obviously strong. Will it get banned? I don't know what the discourse is on that right now. My immediate thought was like, this has to get quick banned. That's too nuts. But then seeing it in action, like it's strong, but I don't know if it's ban-worthy necessarily. I guess we have to wait and see. Don't know. It's pretty damn crazy, though, that you can revive Pokemon in competitive now. Like, that's nuts. It's kind of a brain melter. That's like, what the heck? How is that allowed? Anyway. What's next? Oinky Doink is actually the best Pokemon. Pelipper. Rain, as a concept, is... Like, I think a Drizzle Pokemon will always be pretty good. And there's decent rain abusers, like Barra is alright. I think Azumarill is really good, actually, in the rain. I think rain is not great at the moment. We need better Swift Swimmers, probably, but... I think I've even seen Floatzel rain, which is a bit funny. I don't think that's very good. Pelipper itself is... I like Hurricane Defog. It actually doesn't get Defog. I almost forgot. Yeah, it no longer gets Defog, but it gets like Roost U-Turn. There must be like rain is always a pretty strong idea, but limited rain options in this meta. Maybe it's B tier actually. Just because rain has a bit of limited options in this meta right now. In the future, Pelipper will be better, obviously. Like rain always ends up being pretty good, I think. But right now, like Barra's strong, but that's about it. It's just Barra. And as Azu. That's like it. Anyway. Up next, we have, of course, everybody's favorite Pokemon, Rubska, which I guess I'll just chuck next to Pawmot for a similar vibe. Similar to Pawmot, it's actually like good outside of its Revival Blessing utility, where it has Trick Room, which is good. Like you can Trick Room into Revival Blessing, I guess. Don't know how that team works. I've seen whispers about such a thing. Yeah, reviving an ally is powerful, isn't it? Plus, this thing does other things. Haven't seen it in action much in OU, but it's actually UU as well, and it's pretty crazy in UU. In UU, this thing's nuts. I don't know if it should be allowed in UU, along with Pawmot. They're kind of... I think they're too powerful. But that's neither here nor there. Up next, we have got... I think Arboliver is not very good. It's like the only grassy terrain setter. Actually, I'll put it in C tier because it's good on Trick Room teams. It's got big special attack and stab hyper voice. Makes grassy terrain. Yeah, it's alright. It's a bit weak though. Bit slow. It's got some stuff going for it. And I like the flavor of this one. It's an olive tree Pokemon. I like that. That's cool. That gives it a little bit of bonus points. I don't think Tatsugiri is very good. Glimora, I will actually put... I don't know if I put it in the S or the A+. I think I lean towards A+. Kind of the go-to aggro hazard setter at the moment. Makes Toxic Spikes whenever you hit it with a physical attack. Not just making contact. If you hit it with any physical attack, including Earthquake, it makes Toxic Spikes. Pretty powerful idea. There's some poison types in the meta. Clodsire. But... like Toxic Spikes are pretty strong, especially when you don't have to waste a turn clicking on the thing. You can just make Toxic Spikes passively by getting hit. Pretty crazy. Also has randomly a lot of special attack. Like this thing can Earth Power, Power Gem. I think it gets Grass coverage too. It gets a lot of special coverage. It gets Spikes as well. It gets Mortal Spin, which is a poison type Rapid Spin that also poisons the enemy. And there is counterplay to that, but like, you know, if a Steel type comes in, they're threatened by Earth Power. Or you can just sit and make hazards while they're switching around like a moron. Like, Glimora is pretty damn powerful as a hazard setter. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty strong. A+. Poltegeist, I did lose to once. So I'm going to give it the respect of the B tier. It's got Shell Smash, Stored Power, Ghost Typing, and Terra is good on it. Similar to like Cloyster. As I said before, slightly overshadowed by other offensive sweepers and breakers and stuff. But yeah, maybe a little bit underrated even. I think it's actually quite nuts. As a Shell Smash sweeper. Quaquaval, I will put in the B tier. Quaquaval, I think it's good. It can snowball, but it's not as powerful as it seemed when we first saw it. When I first saw this thing in the in the funny document, I was like, wow, this thing's going to be crazy. But it's actually, like, the power level's so high that this thing doesn't feel that crazy. It's manageable enough. But it's got some qualities for it going for it. I think it's actually another good rain teammate. Yeah, it's good. Might be underrating it a bit. Up next, we've got Roaring Moon, who I put in the A+ tier. Great Pokemon. Would I put it in the S tier? I think I'll put it in the S tier instead of the A+ tier. This thing is very good in a very obvious sense. It's fast. It has Dragon Dance on it. It threatens to win games. It has great offensive typing, great speed. It has good synergy with booster energy. You gain attack as you come in. What the heck? And then you Dragon Dance, and then you can Terra Flying Acrobatics. That's one of the first uses of Terra people figured out that is kind of nutty. Like, not only is that good offensively, but then you become resistant to fighting, which you were previously weak to. Kind of crazy. This thing, it's manageable though. Like, defensive walls can handle it, like Dondozo or Corviknight or stuff, but it's also like a really powerful win condition that can be set up for. It's a pretty damn centralizing and very good. And even the defensive Pokemon can get overwhelmed by it as well. So I'd put it in the S tier. Up next with all the Rotoms. I think I'll only rank Rotom-Wash, which I actually think Rotom-Wash is very good. I think Rotom-Wash is in the A+ tier. I think Rotom-Wash is one of the only things that can actually cleanly handle Annihilape. You have to put a bit of speed on it to be faster than Taunt, though. But you can Wisp it, and then you can threaten Electric move versus it after it Terras. So you actually have two good options against both forms of Annihilape, plus being bulky enough to actually handle Annihilape. And on top of that, it's just a classically good defensive Pokemon. Good ability, good typing, good move pool. I like Chesto Rest on it. I think you can't go wrong with Will-O-Wisp. Obviously, great move. And Volt Switch. Yeah. Strong stuff. The A+ tier is getting a bit crowded. Can we get some more fellas in the A tier? What do we got next? Regular old Salamence I don't think is any good. I'm going to chuck Sandy Shocks in the D tier. I apologize to that one guy in my comments who's a huge Sandy Shocks fan who is very upset that I'm putting Sandy Shocks low in the ranks right now, for sure. To you, I'm sorry, but I feel like Sandy Shocks is outclassed as a hazard setter and as a special attacker. I feel like its offensive typing isn't that good in this meta. It's a bit slow compared to all the powerful stuff it's competing with. It's like when I see a Sandy Shocks, I'm not like threatened, versus when I see, like, I don't know, Dragapult, I'm like, damn, this thing is threatening me right now. Sandy Shocks, I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. It can make rocks, but then I would rather like Glamora, I think. I think Glamora outclasses it in that role in many ways. Yeah. Am I underrating it? Let me know. I feel like it's outclassed by other things and isn't that threatening when it is existing. Scizor. I put Scizor in the... Maybe I'll put it in the A tier, actually. I'm not sure, actually, because it gets owned by Corviknight is the problem with it. But I like its ability to threaten fairies very nicely, and good prio for... Like, Bullet Punch is a nice move in the meta. It fits well. It helps versus a lot of stuff. Its defensive typing helps a lot too. I think it lost a lot of good utility options though. It lost Roost. It lost Defog. Dunno. I'll put it in the... maybe it's just B+ tier. I think it's B+ tier. But... yeah, it's good. It's a good Pokemon. It has merit. It's obviously like not super immediately threatening, but it's a good meta response to a lot of common stuff. What do we got next? Wonder if I've missed anything relevant up here. I don't think that Gardevoir is relevant. The Dunsparce fans, I'm so sorry. What do we got? Scream Tail. Am I ranking Scovillain? I'll rank Scovillain. Scovillain is unfortunately pretty bad. Too frail. Mostly it's too frail. I love Scovillain. It's actually my favorite new Pokemon. It's one of the only Pokemon with a cool name. Like, it's actually a clever name. Look at it. It's an angry flower with 2 heads. It looks cool. It's got a cool offensive typing. It's a unique new chlorophyll user. It kind of sucks that it's not powerful enough for this metagame. I think that, like, the setup required to make Sun and then send it in, it doesn't really, like, have the ability to threaten everything. At least, like, Venusaur, for example, has Sleep Powder, which is a good catch-all option versus anything, but Scovillain suffers a tad bit in this metagame. I can't help but think of, like, Dragonite. Like, Dragonite just gets free setup against Scovillain completely. Maybe do you run Terra Ice Scovillain? That's the way to go. I don't know, though. Alright, folks. What do we got next? Scream Tail. I think Scream Tail is a little bit underrated. I've used it. I like its ability to Perish Song as a way to handle, like, Espathra, backup option versus Dragonite and Annihilape. It's bulky enough to take, like, 1 hit from them and then force them out, at least. And then while you're forcing them out with Perish, you can Wish Up something or Stealth Rock, which I think is good. It is a little bit unfortunate that it's Ghost weak, though. So it's not concrete against the Annihilape because of the fact that it's so threatened by Rage Fist, especially if you hit the Annihilape and make it 100 power. But I love it's like the hardest counter to Espathra, Perish Song, Scream Tail. There's also other sets on it like Calm Mind. I think it gets Trick Room, it gets Screens. It's got a lot of good options, but it's slightly, the fact that it's Ghost Weak, I think, is what sets it back. It sort of fails as a specially defensive wall sometimes for that reason, but I think it's good. We'll chuck it a bit higher in the B rank. And up next we have Skeledirge, who actually I think is A tier, weirdly enough. When we first saw the starters, I thought this would be the worst starter, but I think it might actually be the best starter. It has access to Unaware. You run Boots on it so you don't get owned by rocks. And then it's another thing that's very good with Terastallize, because Fire Ghost, it's okay defensively, but it's got a lot of problems. And then you Terastallize, you keep Fire Ghost Stab, and you get a good new defensive typing. You've got Unaware and great stats, plus you have immediate healing. You have Torch Song, which is a very powerful ability. That's giving you Snowball potential. As a defensive wall that's hard to break through, you now threaten to, like, win, maybe, with Torch Song. You threaten to get stronger and stronger. Will-O-Wisp Hex it has. Will-O-Wisp, great move. Hex. Ghost Fire Stab is pretty crazy. You can keep that stab while becoming a better defensive type. I think Skeledirge is really good, actually. And Torch Song being able to bypass sub is actually nice, because it's a sound move. Goes through sub, so you can actually hit through, like, a Shed Tail thing. And you have Unaware, so maybe you actually beat Espathra that way. I don't know. It's probably not great versus Espathra 1v1 because of stored power plus the defensive boots, but you know. Oh wait, you ignore the defensive boost, don't you? Oh, so true, actually. Skeledirge is crazy. It's crazy. I think it's very good. Up next is Slither Wing, which I used a lot at first, but I think I've sort of realized that it has problems. I liked Assault Vest Slither Wing as a nice special pivot with U-turn. First impression, good-ish wall-breaking potential with close combat. I think that it it gets a bit too owned. I don't know. It's a bit too... Like, the typing isn't great for the meta. I think it was better when Iron Bundle was in. It's a good switch into Iron Bundle, but now that's banned, so... It's also... like, First Impression is useful versus Chien-Pao, but then it's so telegraphed that they just switch out probably to, like, Corviknight, and then you're chipping yourself. It gets pretty owned by Corviknight with Rocky Helmet. That's another problem. Like, U-Turn is a dangerous click now, because you could feed Annihilape and give it a Rage Fist, or Rocky Helm yourself. So that's problematic. I think a choice band set is a decent breaker on a Sun team. There's something there. Like, a banned Slither Wing in the Sun is almost impossible to switch into. I think there's something crazy there, but I'll have to explore that in the future. I don't know. For now, C tier, unfortunately. I do enjoy Slither Wing, but have to admit that it hasn't been doing me very well. Slowbro, I'll put in the B tier, along with... We'll pair Slowking and Slowbro. They're like the same Pokemon with slightly different stats. Yeah, good defensive pivots, regen, chilly reception, good utility move pool, Trick Room. A lot of good options on these guys. They might even be like B+ or A, actually. I think... Let's chuck them in B+. I think they're B+. They're good. They can actually tank hits nicely. Unfortunately, they suck versus like Ghost, but that's alright. Like, they have enough utility elsewhere and ability to wall other stuff. And enable strategies like, I don't know, chilly reception to Baxcalibur is pretty good. And then, or just to pivot. Trick Room is good. They're probably like one of some of the best Trick Room setters. Yeah, I like them. They can be hard to break through to, and they get some good stuff out of Terra if they're becoming a good type, because then if this is the perfect defensive type against an enemy, it's kind of impossible to kill it sometimes. Alright, up next, we have everybody's favorite Pokemon, Ting-Lu. Another A tier. This guy is insane defensively. It's kind of... Like, nothing hits it hard, even if it's super effective. It feels like it's got access to hazards, body press, and whirlwind. Ruination is a nice catch-all click to just make progress against something, half-health it on the way in. It's slightly exploitable because it doesn't have a reliable recovery. It doesn't have... like, it doesn't do a lot sometimes. You can kind of... It's kind of a sitting duck. Its ability to make hazards is nice, of course, for that. But yeah, pretty great defensive Pokemon in the metagame, and we're seeing it quite a bit. Might even be, you know, it's A+. I'll put it in A+. A+ getting a bit crowded, forgive me, but I think Ting-Lu is A+. It's common enough, it's good enough. Alright, what do we got next? Toedscruel. I hesitate to even rank it. I'll chuck it in the C tier. It's like... It's fast, it's got a good special defense, it's got Mycelium Might is a good ability, it can like mold break with its... It has negative prior on status moves, but they ignore abilities, which is a good... It's got Spore, it's got Rapid Spin, Knockoff, Leech Seed, a lot of good stuff, but I think that it just suffers in the metagame. Typing is not very good defensively. Doesn't actually wall a lot of stuff. Has problems. Probably D tier, to be honest. It just sort of doesn't function well enough as a defensive Pokemon because can't actually wall much. Alright, what's next? I'm actually... Okay, we got Torkoal. Tinkaton, I guess I'll chuck in the C tier. No, it's pretty... I think it's pretty bad, but it's okay because of Mold Breaker, Swords Dance, and it can actually Stealth Rock against Magic Bounce, which is nice. It's got good defensive typing. It can actually be a good defensive wall a little bit because of its typing, but its stats are so bad. It's not as threatening as it seems with Gigaton Hammer. It's pretty easy to answer that, but I will give it credit for having Mold Breaker, Stealth Rock, and Swords Dance Mold Breaker to break through like unaware Pokemon. Like Dondozo or something, but... Yeah, not very good. but not quite like unviable completely. It does some stuff. Torkoal I will put in B+. I think that like Sun is for sure better than Rain right now because photosynthesis, good fire Pokemon like Chi-Yu. I think that Sun has a lot of potential. I need to restructure my Sun team. It's a bit outdated now, but I think that Sun has a lot of potential. Some of these threats in Sun are really crazy, and Torkoal itself, like it's bulky, it has great move pool. It even gets a lot out of Terra. You can become a good Terra type, and then you actually can function as a wall, become it, and make Sun a lot more often. It's even got good offensive moves, like Eruption. I think Trick Room Eruption I've seen. There's Solar Beam, Earth Power. It has Rapid Spin. Lava Plume is good. Yeah, I think Torkoal is good. I think, I don't know how good Sun is. It's hard to evaluate because it feels like a lot of setup. I think more consistent teams don't need setup to be powerful, but I do think Sun has a lot of potential. I think Sun has a lot of potential. We've got Toxapex, who has been so nerfed. I'll put in B tier. Toxapex has been very nerfed, but it's still decent as a defensive Pokemon. It has Chilling Water instead of Scald now, which is like a huge nerf. Like Scald is so much better, but Chilling Water at least lets it stop like setup guys while also hitting them in a way. It has Haze, it has Toxic Spikes, Toxic itself. A lot of stuff actually doesn't have Toxic anymore, so a defensive Pokemon with Toxic is pretty nice. And Regen is strong. Doesn't have Knockoff anymore, which is a huge nerf, but Toxapex can still do stuff. It's still decent. I think it's a hugely nerfed, though, like really nerfed. So B tier, definitely usable in OU. Definitely not too bad. All right, up next we're getting to the home stretch, folks. Tar, I will put in... Hard to evaluate. I don't know if you put in C or B. Because I think that it's actually better than Iron Thorns because it makes sand. And it actually has extra special defense. It can wall stuff. It's good versus Dragapult. It's a decent rock setter. It chips Dragonite multi-scale. And sand is just generally chipping a lot of stuff. Like I think sand is really good in that way. I feel like Hippo is probably the better way to go. But Tyranitar does wall some, like it walls ghost types. Unfortunately, Goldengo exists, which just hits it with Make It Rain. That's kind of unfortunate. But you know, the good old fashioned king of OU of the past, Tar, still has a lot of good stuff going for it. Kinda. It's definitely, there's power creep is caught up to Tar. It's an old man. Can't keep up with the Dragapults and the Goldengos and the Chien-Paos of the world, but I think that out of respect for Tar and all his service, I'll put him in the B tier. Because I do think that walling Dragapult and making sand and having rocks, that's decent. And then it's got great coverage too. It probably has some niche merit where you can like hit something important that you need to check. It's probably pretty good into Espathra if they don't have fighting. Like, you don't take huge amount from Dazzle and Gleam. Although, they can just Carmine up and... yeah, that probably doesn't work. Anyway. Tar in B tier. And what do we got next? Volcarona, I think is actually very good. Volcarona I would put in the A tier. I actually think is better than Iron Moth, which is kind of funny, but Iron Moth doesn't have Quiver Dance, and Volcarona does have Quiver Dance. Boots plus, like, there's a lot of... there's, like, Grimmsnarl now to help support Volcarona setting up and sweeping. Volcarona is, like, immediately threatening even without sweeping sometimes. It's got Flame Body, which is really, really good for, like, switching in versus U-turns or stuff. And Terra is really good on it because it, as I said, its offensive typing is amazing. So it keeps the stab but becomes a good defensive type like I don't know, Grass plus Giga Drain for Terra Grass is the most common option, and that's really good because you resist water and then you destroy a water type trying to answer you. You can also run Psychic. You can run other defensive Terra types like, I don't know, Water. Volcarona is really strong. Maybe a bit underrated even. I think Volcarona is great. And is that it? We've got Wo-Chien, the final legendary fella. I don't think Wo-Chien is very good, unfortunately. I'm going to put it in the D tier. It struggles. It is a knockoff user. Its typing is not very good defensively in the metagame. It doesn't make progress fast enough. It doesn't do a lot. It's a bit of a sitting duck. It's exploitable. In UU, it's really good, though. In UU, it's really good defensively. Leech Seed and Knock feel nice. But in OU, it's just... I don't think it can keep up with the power level. Unfortunately. I don't think that the big level 1 snail from Maple Story has it in them to keep up. He looks like an old man, and he's struggling to keep up with the times. It's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. Let me quickly skim over these if I've missed any fellas that are viable in any scenario. I don't think so. I mean, Rotom Heat might be good, but I haven't really seen it. I feel like Rotom-Wash is the main Rotom used. Yeah, that's about it, folks. I may have missed a couple. I've got all the important ones, though. That's my list for now. I bet, I bet there's some stupid rankings here. I'm underrating or overrating stuff. Just my experience with OU. My opinion, of course. I've not looked at anyone else's tier list to try not to get influenced or biased. So now I'll look at other people's. I know Finchinator made one. We'll see what other people think of the meta. But this is my list. Thank you for watching. If you guys want to see some Gen 9 gameplay, I've got a lot of OU ladder vids. I've been trying UU recently, got 2 vids out. I've also tried VGC. Playing a lot of Gen 9. Gen 9 OU, I think, is really chaotic and imbalanced at the moment, and I'm not really enjoying it anymore. It feels like these S+ tier guys and stuff. It's hard to build a good team that feels consistent. It's hard to cover all these crazy threats. I'm kind of getting annoyed with it, but I'm enjoying UU. It's a very young metagame. And yeah, there's a lot to explore there. There's stuff that's clearly OP, but overall the power level is very nice and manageable. And it'll be interesting to see like what are they going to do about this dang OU metagame? Are they going to ban everything? Are they going to just ban half these things? Are they going to do something about Terra? What's going to happen? How is OU going to look in a couple weeks from now? This video is going to be outdated quickly, I'm sure. There's been so many quick tiering decisions. It's crazy. I think Fluttermane got banned faster than I could even blink, and then Palafin was gone relatively quickly, so was Iron Bundle. What'll be gone next? We'll have to see, folks. Many people have their eyes set on Cyclizar getting out of here. It almost did last time. 2 votes away, but creeping through, just as it does in OU. Creeping in, making shed tail, getting out of there, avoiding the ban. It's a bike, it's speedy, it's evasive. It's not going to get nailed down that easily. Alright, anyway, thank you for watching. These are my patrons. For more information on Patreon, check out the description. I offer some things. Let me know if you want to take a look at that. Thank you, guys. Check out my other videos. Laddering content, Pokemon discussion, various formats. I used to be a Gen 3 main. Still my favorite format. Still playing that in tournaments. Greatest metagame of all time. I've got a lot of Gen 3 content on the channel if you're interested in taking a look at that. Evergreen, balanced, fantastic, epic metagame. I've got heaps of content for Gen 3 OU. Or if you're a Gen 9 fan, take a look at my content as well. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. Goodbye.